Hello, my friends. Welcome to this special episode of our podcast, where we learn English through simple words, powerful stories, and real moments from around the world. This is not just about grammar or phrases. This is about understanding the world we live in and finding the right words to talk about it clearly, kindly, and with courage. Today's story is about the weather, but not just any weather. It's about what the earth is trying to tell us. Through heat, through floods, through changes that are happening now. This is the story of May 2025, a month full of lessons for all of us. Part 2, Europe and Africa, dry soil, wet streets, and a message in the wind. Let's take a deep breath. And now, we fly to Europe. You might imagine green fields, cool air, and soft spring days. But this May, Europe is struggling with dryness and sudden wild storms. The silent drought in Europe, from Central Europe to the Baltic Sea and down to the Eastern Mediterranean. Rain is missing, soils are drying, and farmers are worried. Even the great Rhine River, one of the busiest rivers in Europe, is flowing low, too low. And it's not just about boats or water, it's about life. Dry soil means crops won't grow. It means food prices can rise. It means a quiet crisis is building day by day under the blue sky. The European forecast says the next months will likely stay dry. That means the worry is not over. In fact, it's only just beginning. A storm in Paris, beauty and danger. Together and then, out of nowhere, a storm hit Paris. It was May 3rd. The sky darkened fast, and then hail started falling. Thick, round, and heavy. Streets turned, white with ice. People ran for cover. Some just stood in awe, holding their phones, recording the strange beauty. But beauty can be dangerous. The metro flooded. 4 stations closed. Water poured into the tunnels. Traffic stopped. And all this, on a warm spring day, this is what we call weather extremes. One day, dry fields, dusty winds. The next day, ice from the sky and streets underwater. This is not just strange, it's a sign. The balance is broken. Italy's turn, thunder from the mountains. The same storm system moved east, into northern Italy, and it didn't calm down. Instead, it brought more thunder, more wind, and more hail. In the cities, cars were damaged. In the countryside, crops were ruined. The Italian government had to send alerts. Stay indoors, be careful. This storm is not normal. It came fast. It left quickly, but the memory, the fear, stayed. From Europe to Africa, a new story of water and fire. Now we move south, to Africa. And here, the story is not just about heat or storms. It's about survival. Floods in East Africa. The river rose too fast. Let's go to Kenya. Imagine a small village near the river. Children playing, people farming. The normal sound of life. Then, heavy rain. Not just one night, but many nights. And the river, the Shabelle River, began to rise. Higher and higher, until one morning. The village was underwater. The same happened in Ethiopia, in Somalia, in Congo. Thousands lost their homes. Hundreds died. Roads were washed away. Families were separated. Why did this happen? because the rains came harder than ever before. They were part of the long rains season, but this year they were too long and too strong. The earth is warming, and when the air gets warmer, it holds more water. That means stronger storms, heavier rains, worse floods. The people of East Africa didn't ask for this, but they are the first to feel it. The heat in the north, a different kind of threat, and while the East was drowning, the north of Africa was burning, from Mali to Niger, from Sudan to Nigeria. The sun pressed down like never before. Temperatures reached 46-degree Celsius, even 47-degree Celsius in some areas. Can you imagine walking outside in that kind of heat? Even breathing becomes hard. Children get sick, crops dry up, animals collapse. People here know how to survive in the sun. But this is different. This is not normal heat. This is early, extreme, and dangerous. Madagascar and Southern Africa. Too dry, too soon, let's move to Southern Africa. In places like Namibia, Botswana, Angola, and Madagascar, the rains didn't come. The wet season ended too soon. The rivers stayed low, and the land began to crack. In Madagascar, especially the south, people are facing severe drought. There isn't enough water for farming, not enough for animals, sometimes not enough for people, and all of this is connected. Because when one part of the world floods, another part dries out. When one place gets too much, another gets too little. A bigger picture. So what do we learn from Europe and Africa in May 2025? We learn this. The world is changing, not slowly, not quietly, but in clear, visible, powerful ways. And this change is not far away. It's not just their problem, it's ours too. Because we all share the same earth, the same sky, the same rivers, the same future Europe and Africa, when the weather speaks in warnings. Let's take one more moment in Europe, a continent known for comfort, rhythm, and control. But even here, nature refused to follow the rules. As people planned spring picnics and peaceful city walks, the hail fell, the rivers dropped, the warnings rose. And it made something clear. Even the most developed places are not protected from nature's power. Because nature doesn't check your borders or your bank account. It doesn't ask who's ready. It just arrives. In Africa, the lessons are older, and deeper across many parts of Africa, people are not surprised by nature's extremes. They have lived close to the land for generations. They know the smell of coming rain. They know the sky's color before a storm. They know how to listen to silence when a drought is near. But even their wisdom is being tested now, because this May, the rains are no longer gentle visitors. They arrive like strangers, loud, heavy, unpredictable, and the sun, it doesn't just warm, it burns. What this all means: Europe dries up, Africa floods and burns. What do these two different stories have in common? Both remind us of something simple but powerful. The earth is trying to get our attention. Maybe not with words, but with floods, with fires, with skies that bring hail instead of clouds. And we must become better listeners. This isn't about fear. It's about awareness. It's about love. It's about responsibility. We're not here just to survive the weather. We're here to understand it, to respect it, and maybe, just maybe, to help protect the world that gives us everything: North and South America, Storms that don't wait. Let's cross the ocean now, to the lands of North and South America, where the skies are wide, the seasons are strong, and the weather is waking up early. The tornado season that came running. Every spring, people in the United States know the drill. Dark skies, sudden sirens. The air becomes quiet. Then the wind comes roaring. It's tornado season. But in 2025, the storms came. Faster. They came more often. They spun across towns that thought they were safe. In just the first few days of May, over 30 tornadoes were reported. That's a lot. But it's not even the peak yet. Meteorologists said, this is only the beginning. They looked at the jet stream, that powerful river of wind in the sky, and they saw it dipping deep into the country, pulling warm, wet air from the Gulf of Mexico. That's the recipe. Heat, plus moisture, plus wind, plus chaos. So they issued warnings. Get ready. The worst may still come. But what does that mean for real people? One small town, one big reminder. Imagine a small town in Kansas. Families have lived there for years. Quiet streets, schools, a bakery. People know each other by name, and then one afternoon, the wind changes. The sky turns green, and someone, sees it. A funnel cloud. In seconds, everything shifts. People run to basements, windows break, roofs lift, and when the sky clears, there's silence. A family steps outside. Their house is half gone. The neighbor's tree is lying across. Their porch. They're safe, but shaken. The weather didn't wait. It didn't knock. It just came. In Canada, a fire season that doesn't sleep. Now let's move north, to the forests of British Columbia, Canada. It's early May, usually a quiet time for firefighters. But this year, 6 wildfires. 2 were marked out of control. Smoke curled over the hills. Helicopters flew low. Evacuation alerts were sent out. And it's not even summer. Why? Because the weather changed the rules. Spring was too warm, too dry, and too windy. It created the perfect ground for fire. Communities near Fort St. John and Dawson Creek had to pack up fast, leave behind their homes, hope for the best. Meanwhile, smoke traveled across the border, into the skies of Minnesota, North Dakota, even Wisconsin. People far away smelled the fear, even if the flames were miles away. The hidden message in the smoke, you see, wildfires don't just burn trees, they burn time. They burn peace. They burn the idea that we have forever to act. Last year, 2024, was the worst fire year Canada ever had, and now in 2025, it's already starting again. This isn't just bad luck. It's a pattern. It's a warning. It's a lesson. And it's burning fast, Mexico and Central America. The heat you can't escape now. Let's talk about heat again. Because while the U.S. and Canada battled storms and smoke, the countries in Central America were sweating, really sweating. In Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, the air was thick. Not just hot, but heavy, like you're walking through soup. Forecasters called it an abnormal heat risk. It was still May, but it felt like August. People slowed down. School kids fainted in classrooms, power grids strained, and night brought little relief. This isn't just uncomfortable, it's climate stress. And it's hitting the people with the fewest resources the hardest. Because when you can't afford air conditioning and the rain hasn't arrived yet, what do? You sweat, you wait, you hope for clouds. Now we fly south to Brazil. And beyond, in the first days of May, storms swept across southern Brazil. Strong winds, torrential rain, flash floods. At least 2 people died. Hundreds of homes were damaged. Cities like Santa Maria saw streets turned into rivers. In the state of Bahia in the northeast, rains hit hard again, flooding low-lying areas. Families were evacuated. Crops were drowned. This isn't one random storm. It's part of a larger pattern, and it's hitting both ends of the country. Landslides in the Andes, a mountain's quiet cry, let's climb higher, to the Andes Mountains in Colombia. On May 13th, the rain had been falling for days. Then, without a sound, the mountain gave way. A landslide. A village road disappeared. Homes were buried. People were missing. In the news, it was called a tragedy. But to those living there, it was more than that. It was a moment of helplessness. When nature moves, and you realize how small you are. What this teaches us, from North to South America, the story of May is loud. But behind the wind, the fire, and the rain, there's something quieter, something we must not miss. It's this: we are not in control. We think we are. We build cities. We plan schedules. We make rules. But the weather doesn't follow those rules. It follows the heat, the oceans, the balance of nature, and when we break that balance, the earth responds, sometimes with floods, sometimes with drought, sometimes with both, one after the other. Final reflections. What the weather wants us to hear. Let's pause now, take a quiet breath, and look back at the journey we've just made. We've seen fire and flood. We've seen storms strike early. We've seen rivers disappear and rivers rise too high. We've seen people running from heat and people losing homes to rain. This was not just a weather report. This was a wake-up call. Because when nature changes so fast, it's not just a forecast. It's a message from the earth, to you, to me, to all of us. What is the earth saying? Maybe it's not shouting. Maybe it's not using words. But if you really listen, you can hear it in the wind. You can feel it in the dry soil. You can see it in the rising smoke and broken streets. The earth is saying, I'm changing. And maybe also, so must you. This is not about fear. It's about awareness. You might feel overwhelmed. You might ask, what can I do? You're just one person, right? But awareness is the first step. Because when you understand the world, you don't just feel fear, you feel connection. And where there's connection, there's care. And where there's care, there's action. Simple actions matter. You don't need to be a scientist. You don't need to be rich. You don't need to be famous. You just need to care enough to take one small step. Then another, and then another. Maybe you learn to use less. Maybe you teach your children to love trees. Maybe you recycle more. Maybe you waste less food. Maybe you speak about these things in your classroom, in your office, in your language. Even sharing this podcast is a small step. Because when you share the truth, you become part of the change. The power of words. This episode wasn't just about weather. It was also about language. You learned English today, but not from a textbook. You learned from the world itself. You saw real words, real places, real stories, and maybe, just maybe, you felt something. And that's how real learning happens, not just through grammar, but through emotion, through understanding, through meaning. So what will you do now? After this episode ends, what will you carry with you? Will you look at the sky differently? Will you speak more kindly about our planet? Will you teach others what you've learned? You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be aware, to be thoughtful, to be hopeful. Because if each of us does something small, together we can do something big. The earth and you. The earth is not separate from you. You live in it. You breathe with it. Your heartbeat is part of its rhythm. So, when the weather speaks, don't ignore it. Don't fear it. Listen, learn, grow. Because the more you understand the earth, the more you'll understand yourself. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening with your heart. And thank you for learning with your mind. If this episode moved you, if it helped you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because together, with simple English and honest stories, we can build a world that's more aware, more kind, and more prepared. Until next time, take care of your words. Take care of each other. And take care of the only home we all share, the earth.